Hello, I'm Jeff Cook, and I welcome you today. I would like to share with you a certain message or devotion which pertains to the coronavirus, the COVID-19. During this time of seclusion and isolation, I've been asked many questions which pertain to this. I've been asked questions like, what does this have to do with prophecy? Does this have anything to do with the pestilence which Jesus spoke about in Matthew 24? And what about the microchip, which is now being planted in certain nations and individuals? And I've also read on Facebook certain posts which states that it seems that the book of Revelation is being fulfilled before their very eyes. And it's simply because of this virus. Now, if I may say, it seems that many are trying to compare what we are going through today to that which is coming upon all the earth concerning the tribulation period or the great tribulation period. And when I was asked these questions, I simply said that the crisis of today cannot be compared to the calamity which is coming tomorrow. There's no comparison of the two. But I want to quickly and unequivocally say also that I want to be clear and very explicit when I say this. What we are going through today cannot be compared to that which God has foretold in His Word concerning the tribulation itself. Our trouble with the coronavirus will pale in comparison to what is coming on down the road. There is no comparison concerning the two. Now, why would I say this? Why would I come to this conclusion? I want you to listen to the words of Jesus when He says in Matthew 24:21, He says the following, "For then shall be great tribulation," He says, "such as not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be." He is saying there is nothing like it, this tribulation period which is coming. There is nothing to compare it to. There are no similarities. He says from the beginning of time until time is no more, there's nothing that you can compare this to. So even though you may be trying to compare today's coronavirus, this crisis, it cannot be compared to the calamity which is coming upon all the world. Now, this time in which I am referring to and speaking about, the tribulation period itself, the great tribulation that Jesus spoke about and foretold about, it's going to be the worst in human history. I want you to consider the severity of this time which is coming upon all the world. It's going to be worse than the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. Historians tell us that there were 1 million casualties at that time in Jerusalem alone. It's going to be worse than the Black Death, the Black Plague, if you will, that devastated Europe, Asia, and Africa. A devastating epidemic in the mid-1300s, which killed 75 to 200 million people at that time. It's going to be worse than World War I, where there were 20 million killed. It's going to be worse than the Spanish influenza of 1918, of 50 million deaths. The tribulation period itself is going to be worse than World War II and Hitler's Holocaust and Stalin's Holocaust as well. So today's virus cannot be compared to Revelation or the great tribulation period that is coming upon all the earth. This is going to be a time of devastation, a great time of distress, if you will. I want to give you some facts concerning this time that I'm speaking about. This great prophetic event that so many people seem to be worrying about. The Hebrew prophet refers to this event 39 times in the Old Testament. These prophets refer to it as a time of Jacob's trouble. Daniel says it is a time of national distress. The New Testament writers refer to it as the day of the Lord, such as Paul in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 2. John the Revelator in the book of Revelations calls it the day of wrath, the wrath of God, the wrath of the Lamb. It is a day of vengeance. It is a day of wrath. But make no mistake about it. This will be a time of great affliction upon all the world, and there is no comparing of today's calamity to that which is coming upon the earth. Let me also explain it in this way and manner to you. I want to give you a timeline, if you will, so that we may understand this in which I'm talking about. It may also give you peace concerning this matter as well. Before any of this ever comes upon the world, there will first be a rapture, the rapture of the church. Before this great time of trouble and distress comes upon the world, Jesus is coming back for his church. Jesus is coming back for those who have been redeemed through his blood, for those who have been born again, as Jesus says in John chapter 3. Jesus is coming back for the church. It's the rapture of the church. This is the catching and the seizing away of his church. The Christians will be caught away before this ever happens, before this ever comes upon the world. The church will meet Jesus in the air to go be with him forever. The Apostle Paul reveals this great mystery unto us, the rapture. In 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 51 and 52, Paul writes this: "Behold, I show you a mystery," he says. "We're not all going to sleep, but we shall all be changed. In a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, for the trump of God shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. We shall be changed in a moment. We shall be changed in a moment of time. In a twinkling of an eye, our bodies will be translated to that which is immortal." And you can also read about this great gathering and this great event in 1 and 2 Thessalonians, where the Apostle Paul gives vivid descriptions concerning these events. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, Paul reveals the catching away. He reveals how we are going to be caught up. This is where Paul uses the word harpazo. It's a Latin translation which means to be caught up, to seize something by force. It means to snatch away. And this is where we get the word rapture. And then 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, Paul gives a description of the day of the Lord, the tribulation itself. And in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, Paul gives events preceding the day of the Lord, the tribulation. But the rapture of the church takes place first, the church meeting the Lord in the air. And I believe with all my heart that the church has nothing to fear concerning this event, this prophetic event that's coming to pass, that will come to pass, the tribulation itself, this day of wrath, this day of vengeance, this day of distress. We have nothing to fear, the church doesn't. For God has not appointed us unto wrath, but he has appointed us unto salvation. He has always delivered his people before he pours out his judgment upon the earth. And that is why the Apostle Paul tells us that this rapture, this harpazo, this great catching away, is the church's blessed hope. So the church has nothing to fear. First, that which takes place is the rapture, the catching away of the church. Then after the rapture, there will be a 7-year period called the tribulation itself. Once again, I reiterate the following verse where Jesus says, "For then shall be great tribulation." But what are some of the characteristics concerning this time frame? What are some of the characteristics concerning this 7-year time of distress and affliction and vengeance and wrath? What are some of the characteristics? Well, first of all, after the church is gone, the man of sin will be revealed, the Antichrist himself. He will demand to rule the world. He will demand to be worshipped as God, and he will be known by the mark that he issues upon all flesh. And it's a number of a man, 666. And it shall be placed upon your right hand or in your forehead. But once that is issued, it will bring forth a global economy, it will bring forth a one world government, and it will bring forth a one world religion. But the Antichrist will arise after the church is gone, and he will sign his peace treaty with Israel at that time. Now, the Antichrist is going to be bad enough, but more is coming during this time of trouble. I want you to consider this as we close. During this time of tribulation, during this time of wrath, during this time of vengeance upon a disbelieving world, there will be man's war, there will be satanic war, there will be angelic war, there will be God's war, and there will be nature's war. Nature itself will contribute to this time of distress. Nature itself will be going into convulsions. And if you put all that together, man's war, satanic war, angelic war, God's war, and nature's war, put those all together, that equals the bloodiest time on earth. Some prophetic scholars say that 2/3 of the earth's population shall be destroyed during this time. So let me end this with you. You cannot compare today's crisis concerning the coronavirus to the calamity of tomorrow, which is coming, and it will come. There's no comparison concerning our crisis today and the calamity which is coming on down the road. But you have nothing to fear if you are a Christian today, that if you have called upon him for the forgiveness of sins and have been born again, you have nothing to fear, because Paul says we, the church, have a blessed hope, the harpazo, the snatching away, the seizing away, the rapture of the church. You have nothing to fear. Join us next time as I continue this lesson and this message concerning the Great Tribulation and how it cannot be compared to today's coronavirus. Thanks so much. You have a good day.